Hi guys, and welcome back. In this nugget, we're going to take a look at how you can deploy system commands or invoke system commands using your Node-RED flows. Now, sometimes it just isn't practical to write a custom integration for Node-RED, or maybe you just don't have the skill set on how to do that just yet. So what you can do instead is leverage existing command line tools and just invoke those from your Node-RED flow. So let's jump into our browser and take a look at how this works. All right, so I am going to pick up where we left off here, and in the previous nugget, we had created this inject node with a cycle on it of every 1 second. And I just went in and disabled this so it doesn't continue operating over here. So if we had it deployed here, we can see that every second it's injecting a node, or a message, a payload. And so if we just come in and disable that node, it will gray itself out here and no longer be active so that we can work on a fresh flow here. Now, one of the important things to note here is that you can actually have more than one entry point in each flow. Now, this can cause your flows to get kind of messy very quickly, especially if you have lots of different entry points and lots of kind of disparate flows within a single flow. However, there are ways to mitigate that as well using subflows. So what I want to do for now, though, is focus on the exec node down here. So previously, we were just injecting a timestamp and then a string, a static string. But this time, what we're going to do is we're actually going to invoke a system command and then spit the output out. So the exec node is what allows you to do that. It's under the function category. And you'll note it has this little gear icon by default. However, I would point out that a lot of these have customizable attributes, such as the icon. So if you come over to the Appearance tab here, the icon can be adjusted if you would prefer it to be something else, and you also have the option to show the label here. Now, the other thing that you'll notice in the Appearance section here is that you have the inputs and outputs of the node listed. And the exec node is a little bit unique because it has one input, but it has 3 outputs on it. And if you just hover your cursor over them, it'll tell you exactly what they are. So the top one is standard out, the second one is standard error, and the last one is the return code of the command line utility that you ran. So you can use that return code and feed that into another node to determine if the command was successful or not based on its integer value that it returns to the operating system. However, what we're going to do is take the standard output of the command and pipe that into our debug node here. So what we're going to do is just wire that up to our debug here. And as you can see, the other inject node is still technically attached. It's just disabled right now. So the debug does actually support more than one input, which is kind of convenient. And then we need some way to invoke the command. So what I'm going to do is just grab another inject node here and drag it over to the left-hand side of exec. We'll wire that up, and now we can manually trigger our operating system command. However, we haven't actually typed in the command yet. So what we need to do is open up the node properties again on the exec node and type a command. Now, I am running Node-RED inside of a Docker container, and if you followed along earlier, you probably are too. And so the Docker container is pretty stripped down. It has kind of a minimal set of operating system commands built into it, just to keep it very lightweight so that it doesn't take a long time to download and start a new container. So there is a command called ps that just allows you to list out the processes running inside of the container. So if we just do ps, that's all we have to do. Now, if you wanted to add on any other parameters, you're certainly more than welcome to do that, but in this case, you don't have to. I'm also going to specify a name for the node so that in our flow here, we can see the command that's being run. You can call it whatever you want to the node, though. The name of the node is more or less irrelevant. So let's go ahead and click deploy because we've made a lot of changes indicated by the blue circles here. And now we've successfully deployed it. Now the inject node here that we created does not have a repeat interval on it, so we need to manually invoke it using the button here. And what you'll see is that we successfully injected a timestamp message. Now, the timestamp message, the payload that was injected into the stream, doesn't really matter because the PS node isn't actually using that payload anywhere. If the PS node was leveraging the input data somehow, then we would be a little bit more concerned about what value was being passed from the timestamp node or inject node into the exec node. But in this case, we're just running the command PS as a static command. We're not using anything in the payload. So you don't need to worry about that so much. We're just using this inject node as a manual trigger so that we can kick off our flow once we're ready. And over here, you see the output from the PS command as you would expect, and it shows the debug node that has spit it out there. So we're looking pretty good here. That's just a really quick introduction into how to manually invoke, or automatically invoke rather, operating system commands using a Node-RED flow. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.